Shalum. Shalom and welcome. Welcome to the White Robes Family Channel. My name is Symmanayah if you're tuning in for the first time. And these are the messages I am compelled to present before an awakening nation. This is a series that I've started called From Four Corners to the Promised Land. Years ago, I did a series without video from Four Corners, and I was compelled to present this series. And with that said, my brothers and sisters, I want you to know I'm just an ordinary guy, just like many of us. I wear this garment to complement the message. I speak of things that I believe can be connected to one of the 7 major feast days, for I believe each of the 7 feast days has a purpose, and not by itself. In other words, not singular. It's not the only interpretation of the feast times. But I believe, my brothers and sisters, that the Almighty Father, Yahuah, who draw us to Yahusha Mashiach, which represents his word manifest before us. It represents the virgin birth, to the sacrifice, to the resurrection, to Yahuah sending his set-apart spirit in Yahusha's name. All of these are consistent with the scriptures. We read in John 4th chapter how the word can be as an everlasting fountain. So I believe as we read the scriptures, we can read them over and over and over and get different interpretations. Some of those interpretations reinforce and join hand in hand and are as a flowing stream that makes us as a tree planted by the rivers of water, as is written in Psalms. But sometimes we can read things, and if they conflict, if they collide, if they cannot agree with one another, then that's a different interpretation. That's a different element. That's a different condition. Yashar'al, over the years, I have found favor from the Almighty Father in many ways, and I know of no other direction to turn. I just want you to know that this message can be akin to the Feast of Harvest. And if you looked at some of my earlier videos on this channel, you'll see I had different colored garments under the white robes. This is to convey a message. One, there are outer white robes that one day we will wear and to symbolize our unity. And there's the spiritual white robe that will symbolize our unity. And this is why I wear it, my brothers and sisters. If you were to see me on the street, I'm wearing natural clothes just as you. What my conviction's telling me is something that I know I must move to, and that is to make sure I wear shirts or tops that cover the crotch area. Pray for me as I move towards that. This garment and this robe are below the crotch area. But it's not about me. I just want you to know that I'm not dictating that everyone should walk around dressed as I am dressed. I'm just sharing with you. It helps reinforce and send the message to think on white robes, since the channel is White Robes Family, and since the scriptures tell us that in these last days, there will be those in white robes washed in the blood of the Lamb. It speaks of a literal and a spiritual, I believe. But that's neither here or there. I just want you to see the human side of me, so to speak, or the natural and practical side. I want to take a moment to explain that. In this particular segment of this series, From Four Corners to the Promised Land, the image you see behind me, or should I move a little bit and point to it, is an image of Jabal Allah's. I'm compelled to believe it is the true Mount Sinai. It is the birth mountaintop where Musha, commonly known as Moses, received the 10 Commandments and more. And I share this because I do believe there will be a final exodus before the physical return of Yahusha HaMashiach. In this installment of this series, I've labeled it Tag, Snagged, Bagged. Tag, Snagged, Bagged. Before I get into it, let me say this. The views expressed in this video do not necessarily reflect the views of the owners, managers, and shareholders of this media platform. With that said, let's get into the subject. Tag, snagged, and bagged. Now, my brothers and sisters, as end times ramp up, it's going to cause movement. It's going to cause a time where we will have to improve our communication skills. There are those who believe that we should be trying to learn modern Hebrew. Based off of Zephaniah, I believe the 3rd chapter, which talks about a pure lip. My brothers and sisters, I submit to you, if you read Revelations 7th chapter, the 9th verse, it talks about a great multitude of many nations, kindreds, and tongues. So there will be diversity of language during the tribulation, and we will move to understand what is important is the function, the actions, our actions as we demonstrate our worship in obedience to the Almighty Father. And we will learn that in the midst of all the words that are out there, we will learn how to communicate in such a way that there will bring unity among a set-apart nation. With that said, my brothers and sisters, understand with words and language, it is the function, it is the action weighed against set-apartness. How do we weigh it against it? We weigh it against the scriptures as they are made alive. And I'll explain that even more so. Hopefully, if you've listened to my words or many other recordings, and if you were to find them lining up with scripture, then you understand what I mean by as the scriptures are made alive. This morning, my brothers and sisters, on this 6th day of the week, I woke up and I had an encounter. You see, my brothers and sisters, it is my intent to try to pray as much as I can. Praying is not just speaking to the Almighty Father. It is also seeking to listen. And for those of you who have heard me constantly say Yahuah in the name of Yahusha, Yahuah in the name of Yahusha, the name Yahusha represents the salvation of Yahuah. It represents the sequence of processes in which the Almighty Father laid out his plan for us to engage him. We cannot engage him without recognizing his word. We cannot recognize his word unless we understand the dynamics of the virgin birth, the sacrifice, and the resurrection. And I've had people say, how can Yahuah and Yahusha be one if he died or he was in the flesh? And I say to you that Yahuwah's word manifest in the flesh as Yahusha was as though Yahuah put on a glove and his hand was in the glove so that we can see him. He demonstrated before us physically in the person of Yahusha. And they say, well, how can he be that if he died? Well, understand this. All the creations of Yahuah, as it pertains to man, women, and child, when he created us, we don't cease to exist. We live forever. Spiritually, that inward man lives forever. The question is, my brothers and sisters, do we understand that inward spirit, it will either go and be forever with Yahusha HaMashiach after Judgment Day, or it would go to that eternal fire. Now, I'm not talking about hell, because in Revelation it say hell was even thrown into that eternal fire. With that said, let's get into this tag, snag, and bag, and why I believe it's important to talk about how words, language, and functions are important. You see, my brothers and sisters, though Yahusha demonstrated his love for us, though we see there were times he were angry, there were times when it says he wept, but more than anything, all while he was on this earth, he was about the actions of tending to the children of set-apartness, the children of Yahuah. My brothers and sisters, I woke up this morning and I saw this image. I saw this image of a vehicle rolling down a hill. And I'm going to share with you I saw this image of a vehicle rolling down the hill with the doors open. And so I began to pray and say, well, what does this mean? And I believe the Almighty Father, in the name of Yahusha, I believe it is Yahusha that revealed to me that as end times ramp up, there will be vehicles rolling down hills with the doors open, with the opportunity for some people to still be able to get in and get down the hill. You might say, well, what does that mean? I'm going to get into some scriptures here in a minute, my brothers and sisters. But I saw this vehicle going down the hill. And I'm getting ready to take you through the experience I had in my prayer time and what scriptures came to me. With that said, let's continue. My brothers and sisters, so I saw this vehicle rolling down the hill. And I began to pray, to discern. Why am I seeing this? Why am I experiencing this? Let me share with you Isaiah chapter 2, verse 2. I'm going to share with you what I envisioned, what I experienced, what I encountered this morning. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 2 saying, it shall be in the latter days that the mountain of the house of Yahuah is established on the top of the mountains and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow to it. Thus, I believe this is referencing that the time will come when Yashar'al will return to the promised land and be near the mountain known as Jabal al-Lawz currently, which is the true Mount Sinai. And I believe that man does not really know the full contours of the planet, the full shape. But I believe that the promised land will prove to be at a sea level elevation that makes it as a great mountain. Now, some of you might not understand that. You can have mountains on top of mountains. Mountains on top of mountains. But let me continue, my brothers and sisters. It was like the Almighty Father said, well, for my mountain to stand out, I will flatten the rest of the mountains. So come with me to the 42nd chapter of Isaiah, verse 15. He said, I lay waste mountains and hills. I dry up all their plants, and I shall make rivers become coastlands, and I dry up pools. He make mountains and hills. He lay on waste. And I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, we will learn there will be a shifting of mountains, and as a result of that, there will be earthquakes. Many people don't realize that when mountains move, earthquakes are present. So I saw this vehicle rolling down the hill, and it's like the Almighty Father said, I will lay waste mountains and I will bring them down flat. And as the mountains begin to flatten, the vehicles that are still there will start rolling down the hill to get away from the destruction that's coming. And there will be those that will be alive that will survive. And they will hop in the vehicles and roll down the mountain to safety. I literally believe this will happen. Isaiah 54:10 says, for though the mountains be removed and the hills be shaken, my loving commitment is not removed from you, nor is my covenant of peace shaken, said Yahuah, who has compassion on you. Describing the movement of a mountain, the removing of a mountain. Vehicle rolling down the hill. There's more, my brothers and sisters. Bear with me. In Revelation chapter 6, verse 15 through 17. Revelation chapter 6, verse 15 through 17 says, and the sovereigns of the earth, and the great ones and rich ones, and the commanders and the mighty, and every slave and every free one, hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, hide us from the face of him sitting on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, because the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand? My brothers and sisters, I have long believed that there are individuals who have established condominiums and residence in the mountains of Colorado and in the mountains of the Ozarks, thinking that if there was a nuclear war, they would be safe. I've even seen videos where it says in the mountain of Colorado where they've taken old missile silos and have made them livable places. And I believe as the wrath of the Almighty Father, as death and destruction come, as mountains are removed, the ventilation systems will begin to collapse that provide air in these cavernous sanctuaries. And as man began to suffocate those who think that their safety is in these caves, they will cry for the mountains to fall on them, because the pain of suffocation will be upon them. A vehicle rolling down the hill, my brothers and sisters. I believe the Almighty Father, in the name of Yahusha, was telling me, in the movement that is to come, there are many hills we would move down from as we begin to journey to that set-apart mountain. Stay with me, my brothers and sisters. The next thing that I experienced was the Spirit of Yahusha saying, consider inside an analog clock. There are many moving parts inside an analog clock, and these parts must move in a specific order, in a specific manner, to display the time that we seek to measure. And I believe that the Almighty Father say, in the hills flattening, in the movement that's to come, time will be of essence. Time will be of importance. There will be those that will move in a timely fashion and be proactive and listen to my voice. And there will be those that will move as the car rolls down the hill, so to speak, with the doors open. And there will be those left behind. Inside the analog clock are many working parts. So it is with Yashar'al. Stay with me, my brothers and sisters. And I believe that the Almighty Father brought to my attention that inside this analog clock, we look at an analog clock and don't give any thought to how it functions, how it was built. We merely look at the time. And even then, we take that for granted. But consider these words, my brothers and sisters, as it relates to the inside of an analog clock. And if those days were not short, no flesh would be saved, but for the sake of the chosen ones, those days shall be shortened. You see, my brothers and sisters, we read that, but we don't look at the inside. We don't look at the life. What does this mean? This means that we will move. There will be movement, my brothers and sisters. You see, one of the things that bring a day to an end quicker is moving from the West Coast to the East Coast, or from the West Coast all the way to the Promised Land. Do you not know you lose 3 hours from Virginia to California? Well, going from California coming to Virginia, or going from California to Virginia. I'm in Virginia, of course. I'm sorry. And if you were to continue your journey to the Promised Land, you could lose anywhere from 7 to 10 hours. 10 hours from California, 7 hours approximately from Virginia. I prayed and asked for understanding, and I believe that the Almighty Father says, in the great migrations to come, days will be shortened based off of moving timelines. Inside the analog clock are many things in motion. And so I believe as we move, as the days are shortened, there will be much motion, much movement, things to take care of, things to leave behind, people to leave behind. In my encounter, as I continue to pray, Romans 12, 4 and 5 came to mind. For as we have many members in one body, but all members do not have the same function, so we, the many, are one body in Messiah, and members, each one of one another. That was Romans 12, 4 and 5. Romans 12, 4 and 5 speaks of many members. Again, many moving parts in an analog clock. 1 Corinthians 12:12 say, for as the body is one and has many members, but all the members of the one body being many are one, so also is the Messiah. My brothers and sisters, my spirit was fed as I continued in this encounter and in prayer. The car running down the hill, considering the insides of a clock, examples that can be literally seen and spiritually received, to realize, my brothers and sisters, our days are shortened, and they will become more shortened as movement comes. I'm going to say this, O Yashar'al, there's a series that I have called The Closing Scroll that defines in more detail, but the people from the West Coast of the United States and Canada will eventually find themselves moving in mass numbers. Some have already begun because of the wildfires in the United States. But I believe it will come to the point where millions will begin to move, my brothers and sisters. Now you might say, well, what does all this have to do with tagged, snagged, and bagged? If you recall in the beginning of this, I talk about words, language, and function. I want you to know, first of all, I am not insensitive to the death of a loved one or anyone's physical death, for they would have exhausted their opportunity to serve the Almighty Father when we reach physical death. So I'm not making light of it. But understand this, drawn by the Almighty Father, it is written in Revelation where we receive his seal. sealed by the Almighty Father. That's being tagged. It is written that we're being drawn by the Almighty Father. That's being snagged. It is written that there will be those delivered to Satan for the destruction of the flesh, so that the spirit may be saved. It is written that there will be those that will be led astray, that some will die. Some will even die for Yahusha's name. That's being bagged. Again, I'm not insensitive to the physical death, but when we begin to look at the function and not be hung up on the words, because there are those that will say he's saying bag like it's just nothing for someone to die and be bagged and put in the grave. No, my brothers and sisters. I want you to understand that during these end times, we will witness the tag, those who are marked for set-apartness and coming together, those who are tagged to avoid, to come away from, or to purge. We will witness snagged, those who are snagged by the wicked one, and those who are snagged by the power and might of the Almighty Father and drawn. We will witness the bag, individuals that we love, individuals that are close to us, face physical death. And whether I say bagged or placed in a coffin or buried in a grave, all three of these are realistic things that will happen. And I'm not saying this to be funny, nor to be spiteful, but it is important for us to understand the realities of what lies ahead. Inside the analog clock are many working parts. So it is with the set-apart family of Yashar'al. And there was more as I continued to pray. He brought my attention to wheels with 12 spokes. You might say, wait a minute, your car rolling down a hill, language, movement, wheels. What does this have to do with anything? Some of us will realize that as the scriptures are made alive, in our encounter, in our prayer, the Almighty Father will bring things to remembrance as the Spirit of Yahusha teach us to help us to understand what must and will come to be. So this wheels with 12 spokes, as I began to say, okay, what does this have to do with what we're talking about? And it was as though the Almighty Father was saying, there will be movement. Continue to warn my children. Continue to instruct them, to ask questions, to vet, to discuss the matters, to discover my presence, saith the Almighty Father. And he took my attention to Ezekiel. Come with me to the first chapter of Ezekiel, my brothers and sisters. And it reads in the 15th verse through the 18th verse. And I looked and at the living creatures and saw a wheel on the earth beside each living creature with its 4 faces. The appearance of the wheels and their works were like the appearance of beryl, and all 4 had the same form. The appearance of their works was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. When they went in any one of 4 directions. They did not turn aside when they went. And their rims were high and awesome, and their rims were covered with eyes all around the 4 of them. Stay with me. That's Ezekiel 1, 15 through 18. Stay with me. There's more. I'm still in the first chapter of Ezekiel. And he goes on to say, and when the living creatures went, the wheels went beside them. And when the living creatures were lifted from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. And wherever the Spirit was to go, they went, because there the Spirit went. And the wheels were lifted together with them, for the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. When those went, these went. When those stood, these stood. When those were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up together with them, for the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. My brothers and sisters, it is my belief that the wheels that Ezekiel mentioned were those being gathered from the four corners of the earth, structured in inner formation, bringing representation of the 12 tribes. So the 12 spokes of a wheel would be the 12 tribes. They will come together, and that there will be Malachim present. There will be leadership present. And the reason why I say they can go in one of four directions is being gathered from the four corners of the earth, meaning that those on the western hemisphere will move towards the eastern hemisphere, and those to the far east will move westward. And those from the south will move north, and those from the north will move south. And I believe what Ezekiel saw was the coming together of the set-apart children of Yashar'al, consisting of both Hebrews and Gentiles, made one by Yahusha Mashiach, ordered to fulfill the final Exodus. And I believe that there will be a rise in discovering Malachim, also known as angels, among us. You see, Yashar'al, many of us read, and we know about the story of Lot. We know about how Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. But how many of us remember that Lot was led, and his family was led out of Sodom and Gomorrah by the hand of messengers of the Almighty Father? Yes, he was led. And you will discover that many things that are written in Scripture, as end times ramp up, we will see some similar experiences. And I believe as the destruction that is coming, that is described in the Scriptures regarding the Great Tribulation and even before, I believe all the widespread destruction and death that is coming, there will be Malachim, angels. The presence will come. They will aid in guiding us in a formation that will resemble the wheels that Ezekiel saw as we begin to migrate back to the promised land. And all of this is what I was experiencing, my brothers and sisters. Let me continue. Presence of Malachim. In Hebrews 13:1 and 2, we find that it said, let the brotherly love continue. Do not forget to receive strangers, for by so doing some have unwittingly entertained messengers. Now some translations will say angels. In other words, I honestly believe there are Malachim among us, my brothers and sisters. And we will grow to discern them unwaveringly. Not because they say they are Malachim. Our spirit will be stirred, our eyes and ears will be opened, and the Almighty Father will reveal to us his messengers. Genesis 19:16 reads as follows. And while he lorded, this is talking about Lot. I just took an excerpt. You can read the story in its entirety in the 19th chapter of Genesis. In the 16th verse of the 19th chapter, it says, while he lorded, the men took hold of his hand and his wife's hand in the hands of his two daughters. Yahuah having compassion on him, they brought him out and set him outside the city. My brothers and sisters, we will witness fulfillment of scriptures where it talks about he will gather us from the four corners of the earth. He will say to the north to give us up, in the south, the east and the west. Release his children. That time is nearing for Yashar'al. And for each person, depending where they're at, their sense of direction will be different. than the others. So it is important to be focused. For some, it would mean going east. For some, it would mean going west. For some, it would mean going north. And for some, it would mean going south. We must learn to be focused. And this will come by growing in the presence of Almighty Yahuah, discerning his spirit, listening to those whom he has chosen to lead, listening to those whom he has chosen to speak through, being mindful that he speaks through us one towards another. I speak of being focused, and I share Proverbs often. Again, let us revisit Proverbs that I am talking about. For as end times ramp up, trust and know, my brothers and sisters, focus is an important part of the process of fulfilling end time prophecies. Here's something I speak of often, my brothers and sisters. Proverbs 4:23, it reads, watch over your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the sources of life. My brothers and sisters, if we're watching over our hearts, we must be able to examine them and identify what needs to stay and what needs to go, what changes need to be made. He said, turn away from you a crooked mouth and put perverse lips far from you. How many of us are witness people talking about what the conspiracy theories think, what's really happening with the wicked ones, what the Illuminati or the Pope and different ones are doing? How many people are witnessing people that's talking about, I know the secret. Oh, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. But yet, they miss out on discerning the many instructions from the Almighty Father. Busy entertaining, busy distracting people based on what the wicked is doing. Sure, the wicked is doing things, but they are outside the court of the set-apart family of Yahuah. The time is now, O Yashar'al, to focus on what we're supposed to be doing. What is the Spirit of Yahuah saying to us? Is this what we're witnessing, or are we seeing a crooked mouth and perverse lips, fueling distractions? We must understand that in these end times, being focused is important. He says, let your eyes look forward and your eyelids look straight before you. Consider the path of your feet, and all your ways are established. Do not turn to the right or to the left. Turn your foot away from evil. Oh, Yashar'al, focus. If you don't know how, the time is now to begin to identify how to be focused. And this begins with discovering that we are indeed being drawn by the Almighty Father Yahuah to Yahusha. For Yahusha represents his word, him manifest in the flesh, sacrifice, the resurrection. It is said in John 14:26 that Yahuah sent his set-apart spirit in Yahusha's name. So you see, so when we say Yahusha, we recognize the plan of salvation. We recognize the plan, the pathway, the doorway to Yahuah. And there are many people who would prefer to play it safe, so to speak, by just saying Yah. Some prefer playing it safe by just saying the king or the sovereign. They do this to draw numbers and not distract. And I want to say to you, my brothers and sisters, measure the actions of those who just say Yah all the time, the Most High Yah. Measure their actions, their behaviors, their interpretation of scriptures against one who lifts up the name Yahusha, against one who says Yahuah is everywhere at all times and manifests his word in the person of Yahusha, that we must lift up Yahusha. Measure the action of one that just say Yah. Measure the actions of the one who just say the king more than they would prefer to say the Spirit of Yahusha. It is important that we discover being drawn by Yahuah because it is he that draws us to Yahusha. And Yahusha say, if he is lifted up, he will draw all men to himself. This is John 12:32. And what he is saying is, if we lift up Yahusha, and we do this by obedience to his living presence working in us and through us, if we lift up Yahusha, my brothers and sisters, this is where we will meet. This is the intersection. This is the central focal point for the coming together of a set-apart family. And it is he who presents us before the Father, as it is written. Tagged, snagged, and bagged, my brothers and sisters. There are things that will happen that we don't have any control over. There are things that will happen, my brothers and sisters, that we will begin to recognize that the Almighty Father, this is his plan. In spite of COVID-19, in spite of civil unrest, in spite of the political machines clashing, in spite of the world evolving, in spite of global warming and climate change, it is the Almighty Father Yahuah who set out a plan. And it is a plan to gather his children and to reward the wicked accordingly. Discovering being drawn by the Almighty Father, my brothers and sisters, will help us to not waste time arguing and debating, trying to convince someone. With focus, we will learn to speak what is said to us and press on. Let me read the following, my brothers and sisters. In Isaiah chapter 11, verse 12, and he shall raise a banner for the nations and gather the outcasts of Yashar'al and assemble the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. Now, do you not think that in order to assemble them, they're tagged, they're marked, he know which ones he's assembling? And he's going to move you from one point to the next? Isn't that snag? Pulled you away from somewhere you should not have been? Or that time has ended for you to be in that place and to move you somewhere else? And bagged. Do you not think there will be people that will try to stop this? That will be bagged, moved out the way. You see, don't get hung up on the words. Look at the function. Look at what's happening. And the reality is there will be the tag, the snag, and the bag. Many different meanings, but real, O Yashar'al. John 6:44, no one is able to come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I shall raise him up in the last day. Discovering being drawn by the Almighty Yahuah is important, O Yashar'al. 12:32 of John 12:32. And if I am lifted up from the earth, shall draw all men to myself. We will learn that we lift up Yahusha by our obedience, by walking filled with the Spirit, by our worship. Soon and very soon, my brothers and sisters, the time will come when we must begin to look at details and processes. And proof will come, my brothers and sisters. Do you think you can resist being tagged? Do you think you can stop being snagged? Do you think you're protected from being bagged? The realities of end times are before us. Uncertainty is ramping up. But there are instructions, O Yashar'al. Are you discussing? Are you seeking answers? Are you prepared to respond? Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, come with me as I read the next passage. My brothers and sisters, in Revelation 7th chapter, Verse 14 through 17 reads as this. And I said to him, Master, you know. And he said to me, these are those coming out. So if you're coming out of somewhere, that's movement of the great distress. Some translations say tribulation. So that requires movement, details, and processes. Having washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. In this case, I believe he's speaking spiritual. Would there be people wearing white robes literally? Possibly. But I believe mainly, more than anything, it's speaking about our spiritual robe. The external robes add to it in terms of bringing an illumination to what is to come. Wash their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. What is the blood of the Lamb? The blood of Yahusha, my brothers and sisters. How can we be made straight except by the blood of Yahusha? He goes on to say in the 15th verse, because this they are before the throne of the Almighty One and serve him day and night in his dwelling place. And he who sits on the throne shall spread his tent over them. They shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall the sun strike them, nor any heat. Because the Lamb who is in the midst of the throne shall shepherd them and lead them to fountains of water of life, and the Almighty One shall wipe away every tear from their eyes. Tag, snag, bag. There's an end that's coming, my brothers and sisters. There are participants who will fall into the categories of being tagged in the set-apart sense and tagged in the wicked sense. Snagged in the set-apart sense and snagged in the wicked. Bagged in the set-apart sense as well as the wicked sense. Yashar'al, there are no middle grounds. Detail and processes will bring proof. Proof of what is expected. Proof of what's to come. My brothers and sisters, as I gradually come to an end of this episode, I can't stress enough the importance of why we must pray, seek to discern, and act. End times are real, Yashar'al. Soon and very soon, there will be those who are tired of the pain, the unnecessary pain. There will be those who are tired of the instability, the uncertainty. There will be those among us who will become physically and mentally and emotionally weakened, psychologically weakened. And we will cry out to the Almighty Father. And in our weakness, we will rise up strong in the set-apart spirit of righteousness as the Father works in us, through us. We will learn the dynamics of constantly seeking forgiveness when we stumble and fall. We will know the power of being renewed. I said that many messages that I speak of will have some connection to one of the feast times, and I believe this message has some connection to harvest. In harvest, do you not tag or lay sight on the thing you want to harvest, and then you pick it? Do you not snag it? Do you not bag it? Tag, snag, and bag. Harvest time. Harvest time is here now, my brothers and sisters. And we will witness, there will be times when we will be used by the Almighty Father to point someone out that is being used or drawn by him. And that we will be used to reach our hand and grab that person and snag him away from something that the Almighty Father does not want them to be involved in. And we will witness, my brothers and sisters, where we will share with our brothers and sisters, with one another, that there is life after physical death. And so if we find ourselves witnessing the death of those whom we love, the death of those who are close to us, let us trust that we did all we can to present to them what the life of set-apartness, the life of a set-apart child of Yahuah represents. And let us pray that they receive something before facing physical death. Yashar'al, tag, snag, or bag. As I bring this installment to an end, it took me longer to speak on this than what I encountered. From the car rolling down the hill as a warning saying mountains will begin to flatten, mountains will begin to move. Learn what we're supposed to jump on and jump in or ride in and move away from destruction that's coming. To the wheels with the 12 spokes, to the Malachim's presence. All that I have presented to you right now. Some of you would say this is just rambling. Some of you say, oh, interesting experience. Some of you may get more out of this than I've spoken of. But I say to you, O Yashar'al, the water runs deep. The flow of water, the set-apart words of the Almighty Father, is vast. And if what I've presented contributes to you drawing closer to the Almighty Father, if what I distributed in this and presented in this message, my brothers and sisters, cause you to think, to pray, to seek him more sincerely, if what I said have life in it, then Isaiah 55:11 have had its course. It talks about the word of Yahuah not returning to him empty or void, but it will do what it was set out to do. I salute your patience, your tolerance. I salute your pursuit of set-apartness, O Yashar'al. Trust, believe, and know that our redemption truly draws near. I want you to behold the hand of Yahuah, for in all that is happening in the world, his presence is here, and it will become magnified in the coming of days. As we are refined and disciplined by his hand, by his spirit, we will witness individuals rise up with power and might and reflect being used by him. What say you, O listener to these words? What say you, my brother, my sister? Are you being prepared? Are you being refined? Are you being fashioned to do your part as a member of the body of Yashar'al? Are you seeking to do the will of the Almighty Father? I pray that you are in good health. I pray that each of you grow to discern, to ask questions, to learn how to vet and discover and act, to purge or to contribute towards healing, to come away or contribute towards coming together. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, what say you? What is your position? On that note, I bid you, my brother, my sister, my family, much shalom.